Welcome to the Department of Dual Language. This video will give you a brief history of dual language in Portland Public Schools and explain a bit about our program models. The Department of Dual Language oversees three programs: World Language, this is the traditional method that typically starts in elementary school; Native Language Literacy, designed to support native speakers; and Dual Language Immersion, where all the core subjects are taught in two languages. See, dual language is actually an umbrella term that includes a variety of instructional models, such as developmental bilingual education, where all the students are native speakers, both early exit and late exit models. We don't offer these programs in PPS, and immersion, both one-way and two-way. The outcome of these programs is that students reach high levels of language proficiency in two languages across all subject areas. Over 50 years of research in the U.S. and other countries has shown that students in these programs have additional outcomes, such as improved brain function, higher academic performance, and better cross-cultural communication skills. So let's review a bit about the history of immersion programs in PPS. The first immersion program was established in 1986 at Ainsworth. It is a Spanish program and serves mostly native English speakers. In 1989, Richmond was established. It is a Japanese program and our only all-immersion school. All of our other programs are co-located with English-only neighborhood programs. In 1994 came Beach, and then 3 years later, Atkinson. The next year, Woodstock Chinese Immersion was established. When it was first created, it did not reserve seats for native speakers. In 2005 came Cesar Chavez and Rigler. These two programs were established to serve the Latino communities. They, like the Beach and Atkinson programs, reserve half the seats for native Spanish speakers. In 2006 came two more Spanish programs, one at Bridger and one at Lent. And in 2007, Kelly Russian Immersion was started. At that time, we had a large number of Russian families that lived in that part of the city. This is also the year that World Language was added to the requirements for high school graduation. Students must complete 2 years, or credits, of World Language in a single language. PPS schools are required to offer students the opportunity to complete the first year prior to exiting 8th grade. The class of 2011 was the first class that was required to have 2 years of World Language. By that time, the district's work toward racial equity was gaining momentum. The passage of the Racial Educational Equity Policy provided support to adjust practices in all our dual language programs and make them levers for closing the achievement gap. In 2012, the Department of Dual Language Immersion was established and given the task of aligning and expanding both World Language and Immersion programs. We later changed our name to just Dual Language. In 2014, James John Sitten, King, and Roseway Heights were all started. Roseway Heights is the first Vietnamese immersion program in the state and one of a handful in the nation. The King program was formed largely in response to outreach from the Albina Head Start program, where pre-K students were learning Mandarin. Members of the community were asking for an immersion pathway for these students to continue developing their Mandarin skills. That same year, the Woodstock program lottery was adjusted and placed on a path toward reserving half the seats for native Chinese speakers, and the Ainsworth and Richmond lotteries were increased to 15% reserved for native speakers. The following year, Ainsworth was increased again to 33%, making it a two-way immersion program, and the Richmond lottery was increased to 20% to keep up with our growing Japanese community. That brings us to today. But we're not done yet. Demand for immersion programs continues. Research on immersion also shows great results, and our programs are very popular. Last year, over 230 families who applied for the lottery were unable to get in. So in 2016, new programs are scheduled to begin in Spanish and Cantonese Mandarin. But why are we really expanding? Well, remember what we talked about earlier with outcomes? We have an achievement gap in PPS. While some of our students do quite well, some don't. Historically underserved students lag behind white students in achievement, graduation rates, and almost all other indicators of success. Particularly struggling are English language learners. The research on programs that supports these students is really pretty clear. You see, for English language learners, the stakes for entering an immersion program are quite high. We know that when ELLs are in traditional ESL pull-out models, they really struggle. But when they are in dual language programs, particularly two-way dual language, they do really well. This is not true of our white students who tend to do well in the regular program. You see, by placing ELLs in language immersion program, we close the achievement gap. So what's the goal of the Department of Dual Language? It's not actually just to make bilingual students. It's to support the district in its goal to close the achievement gap. Our strategy is by expanding dual language programs.